Good morning, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today is Tuesday, August 15th, and the moon is in Leo. There's a lot to talk about today. Last night, or early this morning, well, I guess it was last night, but early this morning, Fani Willis talked about the indictments and named all the indictees, well, the people who were involved in the RICO case with Trump, including, of course, Giuliani, Cheeseborough, the other guy from the Department of Justice. But you can get that information. I mean, this is not news to you. And I think Fani talked about it at 1:01 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So early this morning on the east coast of the U.S. And I looked at the aspects. And at 1:01 this morning, we had an aspect between Saturn and Chiron. It was a semi-square, a 45-degree angle between Chiron and Saturn, and this is part of a synodic cycle, a 62-year synodic cycle that began back in 1966 when these two planets came together in Pisces, 24 degrees of Pisces to be exact. This was, of course, in the depths of the Vietnam War, and we were pretty deep into the Vietnam War. There was still not a lot of sensibility about us. Wasn't a good idea to be there by most people. That shifted in, I think, 67 or 68. And so I bring that in because Saturn is a planet of government or the people in charge, right? And Chiron is the wound, is the wound. And we're in a part of the synodic cycle between those two. We're at the last part of that synodic cycle, which is about extracting meaning from our experience. And that experience is a long time coming. It's 50, however many years. I can't do math in my head. I didn't write it on my little paper. The next time Saturn and Chiron get together will be 2028. And that's going to be in the sign of Taurus, actually, 7 degrees of Taurus for anybody who's counting. So that's very significant because it's a long-term synodic cycle. Today we have, first of all, for some of us, we have the new moon in Leo. I believe in Australia, the new moon in Leo is happening on the 15th. For us here, in America, it's happening on the 16th. And this new moon is square Uranus in Taurus. It is trine Eris in Aries. And it is conjunct Black Moon Lilith in Leo. Now, there's a lot of things all coming together right now. A lot of different things. Climate change, of course, being on the top of the list. All these Trump indictments also on top of the list. And there is one thing that sort of happened that was very important. And I apologize for not having all the technical words for it, but I want to point it out just in case you guys didn't hear about it. There was a suit in the state of Montana, where the youth sued the government for not taking the climate change issue seriously, and they won. They deserve a livable future. That's what this suit came, the whatever, the end of the suit, right? So They won. They deserve a planet that's livable. So this is a precedent, and it's an important precedent, and I think it's something that we need to look at. We can connect it to that Chiron Pisces energy, I believe. Now, as far as, so that's, I wanted to say that. The next thing I want to talk about is today we have a square between the Sun and Uranus. The Sun, of course, in Leo, Uranus in Taurus. This is, Uranus squaring the new moon, because the new moon happens shortly thereafter. So it's all kind of together. This square is a crisis in action square. And, after the things that have happened this week, or over the last week, with the fires in Hawaii, so far the count of people who have passed is 99. I imagine it's going to be much higher. It doesn't look like those poor souls had a chance to get out. A lot of the people that live there are retired. I know I'm not retired, but I know at my age, and in my early 60s, I can't run as fast as I used to. And I don't know if I could, and I'm in, not great physical shape, but relatively, I can move. I would be able to get out of that conflagration. It occurred on the 9th of August, which interestingly, or uninterestingly, or tragically, is also the day, the anniversary of the dropping of the bomb on Nagasaki in 1945. So there's a resonance here, I think. And really, when you look at the pictures from Lahaina, it kind of looks like an atomic bomb was dropped. And so I don't know how much more we need to see. And I know you and I don't. I mean, we probably didn't need to see any of this. We were aware of how dire things were. But we have to do something, right? And, I always say, well, what can I do? Small, little old me. And I say, live the best life that you can, right? And that is, I really do still believe that to be true. I also believe that we need to live more simply. And I think if COVID didn't teach us anything, it taught us what was essential, including essential workers, and what is not essential. There was just a hummingbird went flying past. I don't know if you caught it. I don't know if you could see it, but if the hummingbird is here, one of the essentials that we need is joy. Joy. And we have a new moon in Leo, and that new moon, Leo is a sign about joy. It's a sign associated with creative self-expression. It's a sign associated with children. And who has more joy than children, right? So, or should have more joy than children. And yet we find ourselves asking our children, back when I was a kid, maybe it was duck and cover, although I'm a little young for that. That sort of went away by the time I got to school in the late 60s. But we had that, but there was always this onus of nuclear annihilation. I remember it. I remember the feeling. What do I want to say? It's time for a new way, and you know it and I know it. And this new moon in Leo will give us some opportunity to create the new life. There's a lot ahead of us. And as I've said, we can't do any of this by ourselves. We need each other. The people in Maui, the people who are helping the people in Maui are, the people of Maui, and this need to help one another and help your neighbor, and and take care of each other is so very important. Even if the government does its best to help people, we can see by one disaster in Lahaina how people don't have a place to live, they don't have food, everything is gone. What do we do? These things are probably going to become more common. And so, at some point, we're going to have to take matters into our own hands, I think. And I think we already are to a certain extent. But I wish let's see if I can I don't want to talk about things in a way where it's like, oh my God, this is doom. It's not doom. It's not doom. It's just to remind us that we can't do it in the same way anymore. We can't stand for the people in power to just have a different set of standards, or corporations to have a different set of standards. The voice of the people is being heard, and the voice of the youth is being heard. The other thing that I noticed yesterday, when I went to Facebook for some reason. I don't do Facebook very often. And there was a thing from one of the Parkland kids, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He's the guy that Marjorie Taylor Greene harassed about it not being a real, shooting, even though he lost friends. And anyway, you know who it is, the young kid, thin, nice cheekbones. I can't think of his name because I haven't had enough coffee yet. But they're actually starting a political party to get more young people involved in politics. And so if I can find the link for that, I'll put it in the descriptor for you. Otherwise, I'll do another video on it because I think it's important to talk about it. But there is this sense of the youth rising up and wanting to take hold of the reins of power so that they can create this world. And I think I saw this on the same day that this court case came down, and I think that the court case in Montana is a good back for that, right? A good backing for that, and they have legal standing now. So I think things are changing, guys. And as I said a couple of days ago, we have to support the youth in their journey towards creating a livable world. We have to be part of the solution and stop being part of the problem. Although I don't think anybody watches me as part of the problem. And sometimes I just feel like I'm talking to the choir, right? I'm preaching to the choir. But something's got to get out of this church, right? This church of Mother Nature, this church of green lushness, with the king of all things, King Charles's realm, right here. Hey, Charlie. He's so funny. All right, guys. So I'm going to stop now. Check out my moon shadows. I did it with Ona last night. I also did a in the news about Fani Willis. You want to check that out. I think it's pretty interesting. And it's this is just the beginning of all of this stuff. See, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for these indictments, but this is only part of the way. And so there's a lot more to go, but at least we know we're moving in the right direction. Right, Charlie? Yeah. All right, guys, have yourself a great day. Remember, the new moon in Leo is about creative self-expression and joy. Where can you find your joy? What do you need to express? How are we going to move forward is a good question. Take care, everyone. Namaste.